In 1981, the South Australian Parliament passed the Pitjantjatjara Land Rights Act 1981, which paved the way for more than 10% of the total area of South Australia to be conveyed as freehold to the traditional owners of those lands, the APY lands. The legislation made it unlawful for any person who was not a traditional owner to go on those lands unless they had formal permission from the Anangu Pitjantjatjara, the body corporate established to manage the lands. Brown was charged with going on to the Pitjantjatjara lands in early 1982. He was an Aboriginal man from New South Wales and was accompanied by a Pitjantjatjara person who had invited him onto the lands, but he did not have the necessary formal permission to be there. His defence was that the Pitjantjatjara Land Rights Act was invalid because it was inconsistent with the Commonwealth Racial Discrimination Act 1975. When a state law is inconsistent with a Commonwealth law, the Commonwealth law takes precedence. Essentially, Brown's argument was that by forbidding him from going on to the APY lands due to his race, the South Australian legislation was discriminatory. The obvious answer was that the South Australian legislation was not discriminatory because it was a special measure taken for the advancement of a disadvantaged group. Such measures were permissible under the Commonwealth legislation and also under the International Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. The question then was precisely how a special measure should be defined under Australian law. Justice Brennan set out the criteria. He said, a special measure confers a benefit on some or all members of a class, the membership of which is based on race, colour, descent, or national or ethnic origin, for the sole purpose of securing adequate advancement of the beneficiaries in order that they may enjoy and exercise equally with others human rights and fundamental freedoms in circumstances where the protection given to the beneficiaries by the special measure is necessary in order that they may enjoy and exercise equally with others human rights and fundamental freedoms. He found that in accordance with this definition, the South Australian legislation was clearly a permissible special measure, so the South Australian legislation was not inconsistent with the Commonwealth Act. Brown's defence was unsuccessful, and the APY lands remain under the freehold control of their traditional owners to this day.